Well, it looks like I'm going to have to issue a correction over something I said in the last episode.
The man is Heinrich Kramer, and he is writing the most blood-soaked book of the 15th century, the Malleus Maleficarum, the Witch's Hammer, a book that would torment the world for a century after its release, and be responsible for the torture and death of 70,000 innocent people.
Treating of three necessary concomitants of witchcraft, which are the devil, a witch, and the permission of Almighty God.
He goes on to say that female empowerment would bring on the apocalypse. He even made the title of the book Female, to hammer home his point. Malleus Maleficarum is a hammer used only on women.
So, we must find the mark. Aye. We must find the mark.
Greetings, fellow worker slaves, podcasting at 128 kilobits from the Fortress of Squalitude, located not far from the Redneck Mecca. This is the Atheist in the Trailer Park podcast. I'm your host, Tucker. Professor Fuzznuts is on the back of my chair. Lord Nibbler is curled up on the floor. I have not seen Lord Squeakington in a number of days. Yes, it's a podcast hosted by guys and these cats. Get over it. This is a Hex and Hammer episode where Skullbeard and I read more from the medieval witch hunting manual. Now, before I go any farther, let me get to the correction that I teased at in the opening sting. So it turns out a journalist did some digging and found that there actually is an Adrian Dittman. And they did enough research that you can say, yes, this person is real, and yes, they are absolutely a huge fan of Elon Musk. However, there are a couple of things about this person that makes me think that they allow Elon to use their profile. Here's why I say that. If you listen to the Knowledge Fight episodes where they play clips of Alex Jones's interview with Adrian Dittman, dude sounds identical to Trump. Now, or not Trump, but Musk. Now, I suppose it's possible for somebody to mimic a voice that closely, but that's not really. I mean, if this guy is able to do an Elon Musk impression that good, then he's a better impressionist than anybody out there that you can think of, whether it's Rich Little or Dana Carvey or Kevin Pollak or anyone else that you can think of, because there's nothing about him that sounds at all different than Elon. And in fact, this guy has an accent that you would not expect from his nationality, because he's German who grew up in Gibraltar and Fiji. Now, when I was in college, I had a roommate who was from Germany. And he was in his 30s and early 30s at that time, and he'd been living in the States for a decade or so before I met him. He still had a bit of a German accent. And then in the early 2000s, I had a job, and it was in an office building, and there were different companies in the building. And the one of the people in the building who I would talk to sometimes when I was on break was this gal who was from South Africa. She had a very different accent than my German roommate did. And there were kind of similarities, but not a lot. But that Adrian Dittman guy, every clip I've heard of him speaking, he sounds identical to Elon. So I can easily see him him letting Elon use his account when Elon wanted to do something and not let people know it was him. I could be wrong, but that's what, that would not surprise me. But, and now the weird thing is that apparently Elon is blocking all posts on Twitter related to the articles discussing whether or not Adrian Dittman is a real person from Fiji or not. As somebody pointed out, not sure which is worse, being a billionaire who has a sock puppet account that you use to, pump yourself, or being such a simp for a billionaire. Either way, it's sad and pathetic. As for how things are going around here, well, it's gotten cold. Which I'm sure most of you who are hearing my voice know all about what it's like to be cold right now. However, I discovered a little issue that I had not planned on with the new bike in the cold weather. The ignition, because the bike, I guess, is a safety feature, or an anti-theft feature, has an ignition switch, whereas all the others, they didn't have that. You just hit the power button and they turned on. This has an ignition switch and a power button. Anyways, so I go to get on the bike this morning because it's really cold and I'm going to get some kerosene so I can heat the house up better than the space heaters do. So I got some WD-40 and tried and sprayed that in the ignition switch, hoping that would fix it. It didn't. So I got the bike and put it in the house. Then I took the other bike to go get the kerosene, and I left the one bike in the house until it was time for me to leave for work, and checked, yep, the ignition had thawed out, and so I went off to work. And I told him at work, I says, I got to bring the bike in tonight before I leave, because that ignition switch freezes up and I can't, I need to have it thawed. So, and they were cool about that. So, and in the past, I have seen these things that, they were roughly the shape of a car key, and you could stick them in a car lock to thaw it out. So I checked on Amazon while I was at work to see if I could get one of those things, and either they don't make them anymore or Amazon doesn't carry them, because I could bring up all kinds of stuff related to car door locks and car heaters, But nothing, not one of those things was something you stick in the lock to thaw it out so you can turn your key. I guess the fact that cars for the past 20 some odd years now have all had some kind of remote unlock thing has caused the sales of the dinguses you stick in the door lock and to thaw it out to fall off to the point where they're not commercially viable. Okay, it's getting late. I gotta get this thing edited and put together, so I'm gonna shuffle on out of here. Oh, I forgot. Almost forgot. The last Hex and Hammer episode, I chopped off in mid-sentence what we were talking about, and this episode's going to pick up right in mid-sentence of what we were talking about. And I don't think... No, I don't have the... I can't... It'd take too long to find the original file and dig through all that shit and get it all sorted out, so I could... start the whole sentence over again. So, it'll be a little weird. But, in terms of readability, this shit's getting better. I mean, in an abstract neo-expressionist kind of way, it's not, it's not the unintelligible gibberish or has you just pounding your head against the table like the earlier parts of this did. So that's a thing. And I will talk to y'all soon.
And, well, they decided to check his laptop.
Okay.
He had CSAM. So he spent some time in prison, and I'm guessing he's out. And he spent time in a Canadian prison.
Yeah, okay.
Now, I will have to say, as far as his musical composition goes, dude could really write. There is a New Age piece that he did that, unfortunately, he has never publicly released the particular arrangement that I heard, which is a shame because it is the best arrangement. It is absolutely gorgeous. And it is called Labrador. And he was inspired to write it while tripping on acid, flying over Labrador, Canada, on his way to Europe. The arrangement that I heard, the primary instrument was a muted trumpet, but for reasons known only to him, he thinks that the primary instrument should be a flute. And having heard both versions, I'm like, no, the trumpet is better because the trumpet gives you the vibe of being in fog and seeing a lighthouse in the distance. Whereas the flute version, it's just you're sort of in a fog. There's no guiding thing you can vaguely go after, even though it may not actually be the right direction to have. Because, fog does cause light to do weird things.
Oh, yeah.
But, I guess enough of the nostalgia channel for now. So,
is it yours or mine?
Saint,
oh, it's yours.
It's mine. St. Thomas says further, the words of God are not less holy than the relics of the saints. Well, duh.
I know, right?
mean, you wouldn't have the saints without God, so...
Seems pretty basic to me.
Yeah. As St. Augustine says, The word of God is not less than the body of Christ. But all are agreed that it is lawful to carry reverently about the person the relics of the saints. Therefore, let us by all means invoke the name of God by duly using the Lord's Prayer and the angelic salutation. What the fuck would that be? By his birth and passion, by his 5 wounds, and by the 7 words, which is half of what the Nazis need.
Mm-hmm.
Which he spoke on the cross, by the triumphant inscription, by the 3 nails, and by the other weapons of Christ's army against the devil and his works. By all these means it is lawful to work, and our trust may be placed in them, leaving the issue to God's will.
God's will or God's swill?
Yeah, meaning that even, if you guessed wrong, it's not your fault. It's what God wanted you to do.
Yep.
Because, Jeebus.
Yeah. And what has been said about the keeping off of serpents applies also to other animals, provided that the attention is fixed only on the sacred word and the divine virtue. But great care is to be used in incantations of this nature, for St. Thomas says such diviners often use unlawful observances and obtain magic effects by means of devils, especially in the case of serpents, for the serpent was the devil's first instrument by which he deceived mankind. For in the town of Salzburg there is a certain mage who one day, in open view of all, wanted to charm all the snakes into a particular pit, and kill them all within an area of a mile. So he gathered all the snakes together, and was himself standing over the pit, when last of all there came a huge and horrible serpent, which would not go into the pit. The serpent kept making signs to the man to let it go away and crawl where it would, but he would not cease from his incantation, and insisted that, as all the other snakes had entered the pit and there died, so also must this horrible serpent. But it stood on the opposite side of to the warlock, and suddenly leapt over the pit and fell upon the man, wrapping itself round his belly, and dragged him with itself into the pit, where they both died. For this it may be seen, that only for a useful purpose, such as driving them away from men's houses, are such incantations to be practiced, and they are to be done by the divine virtue, and in the fear of God, and with reverence. I don't know why I read 2 chapters, or 2 paragraphs, but whatever.
I don't know. All I
Cool
can think
snake
of
story, bro.
is the Simpsons episode, Whacking Day.
Mm-hmm. Yup. Cool.
Can you hear this?
I cannot.
Oh, yeah. Boopity-boo. It was in my headphones really clear, so I kind of thought it would transfer over, but it didn't, so here you go.
Yep.
The Simpsons have never let us astray yet. Oh my God. And oh fuck, I'm gonna have to look it up now. Because I'm sure you've never seen it, and yeah, it's terrible.
Thanks. Just what I needed.
Lair of the White Worm.
Lair of the White Worm. I've heard of it.
Right. It's a Bram Stoker novel that he wrote shortly before he died of syphilis-related complications.
Ah, okay.
And the director of the movie is a guy who I can't. Kenneth something or other, not Branagh. The guy who he did
Ken Russell.
Ken Russell. He did Crimes of Passion, which is a great movie and has Kathleen Turner in it playing a prostitute who, man. Anyways, The Lair of the White Worm is a modern interpretation of it, and of the Bram Stoker novel, and why MSTK 3000 never did that, I don't know, but boy, it's a terrible movie. It is, so terrible it's good kind of movie.
Well, I'm looking at it on IMDb, and
I just sent you a link to the trailer.
6 out of 10 stars.
Yeah, and it stars a very young Hugh Grant before he ever became famous.
Yep. And Peter Capaldi and bunch of people I've never heard of.
Yeah. And I have to say that Richard E. Grant, who is Hugh Grant's brother, is the better actor, even though he's lesser known.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, he's been in some good movies, some shitty movies, but the movie that he's been in that you want to watch is Henry and June.
Oh, okay.
Which is about Henry Miller and Anais Nin. And features Uma Thurman and another woman by the name of Maria de Medeiros in some lesbian scenes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the first movie to get an NC-17. And I mean, it's one of those things where you watch the movie and you're like, oh, this is obvious that they were just butthurt about the fact that there was some hot lesbian sex in this movie. It's not. There's nothing really explicit in this movie. It's not pornographic. It's about two writers who were very open about human sexuality. So naturally, there's going to be some sex scenes.
Well, I would hope
it's a great movie. Some of Henry Miller's books are well worth reading, as are some of Anais Nin's books. And it's like the first movie appearance of Kevin Spacey.
Oh.
He has a bit part. And you don't, when you watch it, I saw it in the theater when it came out. Didn't really think much about his character. Didn't think about it till years later. And I'm rewatching the movie and I'm like, oh, hey, I think that's Kevin Spacey. Hey, that is. But, The Henry and June is kind of hard to find on video. Well, we're pirating if you can't find it legally.
Okay.
I
In
mean,
mind.
outside of the sex scenes, a great movie about artists and the creative process. And Paris in the 20s and 30s. All right.
It's quite the tangent.
Yeah, I know. Gonna be fun editing this. In the second place, we have to consider how exorcisms or charms of this kind ought to be used, and whether they should be worn round the neck or sewn into the clothing. It may seem that such practices are unlawful, for St. Augustine says in the second book on the Christian doctrine, "There are 1,000 magic devices, and Professor Fuzznuts is standing right in front of the screen, so I can't read anything. Come on, buddy, move. And amulets and charms, which are all superstitious. And the school of medicine utterly condemns them all." That was before RFK Jr. became the head of the NIH or the CDC or whatever it is Trump's pointing him to. And my God, I cannot wait till my health insurance kicks in on January 1st because I'm calling a doctor and going, "Shoot me up with every goddamn vaccine known to man that my insurance covers. Whether they are all incantations or certain marks, which are called characters, or engraved charms to be hung around the neck."
So, the goods are out there. They're just unlawful.
Yeah.
Also, St. John Chrysostom, commenting on St. Matthew, says, "Some persons wear round their neck some written portion of the gospel. No regrets." But it is not the gospel every day read in the church and heard by all.
A best in show joke, I must point out.
But is not the gospel every day read in the church and heard by all? How then shall a man be helped by wearing the gospel round his neck, when he has reaped no benefit from hearing it with his ears? For in what does the virtue of the gospel consist? In the characters of its letters, or in the meaning of its words? If in the characters, you do well to hang it round your neck, but if in the meaning, surely it is of more benefit when planted in the heart than when worn round the neck. Okay. Cool.
And St. John the Chrysanthemum.
Chrysostom?
Yeah. He was an early church father who was the Archbishop of Constantinople.
Oh.
It's Istanbul now. It's Constantinople now. It's Istanbul now. Yeah. And his last name translates to Golden Mound.
Golden Mound.
Mouth.
Okay. Mouth. Oh.
Yeah. Because apparently he was very eloquent.
Apparently.
And to go back to one of our earlier tangents, right? Byron, the dude whose dad was the NASA engineer, whose grandfather, great-grandfathers founded the snake handling church, was a local reporter for the newspaper in the town that I was living in at the time. And he was talking about one time this criminal trial he was covering.
Yep.
And, they had this guy on the stand and they said, "We noticed that you signed this letter Golden Tongue." Why did you sign it that way? And he says, well, that's what they call me. And the lawyer says, why do they call you that? To which the guy on the stand replies, they call me that because I like to eat pussy. Dude said the entire courtroom erupted in laughter at that.
All right. But on
the other hand, the doctors, and if I can remember, I'm going to just drop in the from Doctor Who at that point. Answer as follows, especially St. Thomas, where he asks whether it is unlawful to hang sacred words around the neck. Their opinion is that in all charms and writings so worn, there are two things to be avoided. First, in whatever is written, there must be nothing that savors of an invocation of devils, for then it is manifestly superstitious and unlawful and must be judged as an apostasy from the faith, as has often been said before.
All right. So all those people with Bible verses and stuff tattooed on them, around the neck, little charm bracelets that say faith and shit.
Well, you know what I'm thinking about is, I cannot remember the proper term for it, but there is a Jewish tradition where you have a small scroll with some part of the Torah on it.
In the little boxes, and they hang it in their beards and shit?
No,
Or
well,
from their
I'm not thinking
hats
about
or something?
that. But they have it, by the door of their house.
Okay.
I'm thinking that this is a pushback against that kind of concept.
Oh, probably. Similarly, in accordance with the above 7 conditions, it must not contain any unknown names, but if these 2 snares be avoided, it is lawful both to place such a charm on the lips of the sick and for the sick to carry them with them. But the doctors condemn their use in one respect, that is, when a man pays greater attention to and has more reliance upon the mere sign of the written letters than upon their meaning. So, idolaters?
Also, I'm thinking about an era where people weren't literate, but they could be trained to copy writing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it may be said that a layman does not understand the words. Oh, excuse me. It may be said that a layman who does not understand the words cannot pay any attention to their meaning, which is why the Catholic Church at this time read the Mass in Latin, a language most people did not speak.
Yep.
But it is enough if such a man fixes his thoughts on the divine virtue and leaves it to the divine will to do what seems good to his mercy.
Yeah, okay.
Trust me, God had a reason for your brother to be gored by an elephant and then trampled into little tiny pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter that your brother was a toddler. No. He somehow deserved it.
It's part of God's plan.
Yep.
Mysterious ways. Just believe in the process. In the third way, we have to consider whether the devil is to be conjured and the disease exorcised at the same time, or whether a different order should be observed, or whether one of these operations can take place without the other. Here there are several points to be considered. First, whether the devil is always present when the sick man is afflicted. Second, what sort of things are capable of being exorcised or remedied. Third, The method of exercising.
Okay, I'm just going to say that if your religious practice involves summoning the devil to heal somebody, even though that person was not demonically possessed, that seems like a bad religious method.
Yeah. You never know. You gotta have an intercessor, right? We discussed this earlier. You call on the Virgin Mary or Saint Peter, Saint Thomas, Saint Christopher, whatever. Satan himself. I mean, dude's up there in the chain of command if you want somebody to intercede on your behalf. God ain't gonna do shit unless he feels like it anyway, so.
Yeah.
Whatever.
For the first point, it would seem, following that pronouncement of St. John Damascene, that where the devil operates, there he is.
No matter where you go, there you are, yeah.
Yeah. Should I point out that if you listen to the country song, Wherever You Go, There You Are, and then listen to the song by Genesis called I Can't Dance, you realize that the country song is just a slowed down version of the Genesis song with different lyrics, and you're like, why has nobody sued over this? But
well, it's got a totally different vibe.
Yeah. That the devil is always present in the sick man when he afflicts him, and also in the history of Saint Bartholomew Simpson.
No.
It seems that a man is only delivered from the devil when he is cured of his sickness.
Okay, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But this can be answered as follows. When it is said that the devil is present in a sick man, this can be understood in two ways. Either that he is personally present, or that he is present in the effect which he has caused. Okay. Is this like Schrodinger's devil? In the first sense, he is present when he first causes the sickness. In the second sense, he is said to be present not personally, but in the effect. In this way, when the doctors ask whether the devil substantially inhabits a man who commits a mortal sin, they say that he is not personally present, but only in effect, just as a master is said to dwell in his servants in respect to his mastership. But the case is quite otherwise with men who are possessed by a devil. The devil made me do it.
Yeah, and I'm going to suggest we stick a fork in it because my head is hurting.
Oh, thank fuck.
I mean, forget how long we've been at this, which...
I got about an hour and a half on the recorder here, so... Yeah,
but... my head's hurting bad.
Uh-huh. Yep. I know, I really got to warm up before I start doing mental gymnastics like that. I think I might have pulled something.
Yeah.
Sweet zombie savior on a stick. There's some nasty shit.
Oh, God.
Have fun editing.
Some of this I'm going to leave in.
You poor bastard. You got to listen to this again.
Yeah, and again, and again, and again.
Yeah, that is some wild shit.
I know,
Holy
man.
fuck.
Not what I expected at all.
No. Some people have rather vivid imaginations.
Ergot, buddy. Ergot. Meow? Who's meowing? Who's talking? Nibbler? Yep, that's Nibbler. He's a talker.
Mm-hmm.
Fuzznuts is not so much a talker, but Nibbler definitely is.
Yeah. Looks like Fuzznuts is more of a cushion on your chair.
Yeah, when I get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, I have to pick up Nibbler. Because otherwise I step on him. Because he likes running around my feet. Yes, Nibbler. Gosh, that sounded like you were upset.
Mr. Underfoot.
Yeah. Yes, Nibbler. What's the matter, buddy? Yes.
Goofy cats.
I know, man. Oh, God. Oh. Come on, buddy. Come on. Pick your spot. Thank you.
That's it for this episode of the Atheist in the Trailer Park podcast. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes. It's also on Stitcher, and most of the episodes are on YouTube. Follow the show on Twitter at tparkatheist, and it's on Facebook at facebook.com/trailerparkatheist. You can email me at trailerparkatheist@gmail.com. Show notes can be found at tparkatheist.blogspot.com. If you happen to like the podcast, please rate it on iTunes. If you'd like to donate to support the podcast, there's a donate button on the show notes page. You can also support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/TNTucker.
The podcast, there's a donate button on the show notes page. You can support it via Patreon at patreon.com/TNTucker. Thanks for listening.
Say goodnight, Fuzznuts.
All I know is this violates every canon of respectable broadcasting.
Damned cat.